respective license or a license to indeed mine, but will still be irresponsible in the forest or in our water bodies as we are seeing it. And the ramifications or the effects or consequences of the irresponsibility of a licensed person practicing what we term galamsey or not, wherever we want to call it, knows no bounds. If our water bodies are destroyed, it will harm all of us, regardless of our affiliations. Same way, corruption, no matter what we seek to do or not do, will still end up costing us our lives, costing our dear nation, because for some of us, where else would we turn? Burkina Faso, Togo, or our neighbors, Ivory Coast, or Cote d'Ivoire. Unless you're a good swimmer, even that, you may have the sharks to contend with. We all know our chief crusader, Crusaders Against Corruption, in the person of Mr. Emmanuel Wilson, Jr., who has been a strong advocate to speaking against this cancer. And cancer, we would have to call it, because what can you do? As we speak, in terms of the medical fraternity, there is no known cause, though there are some suspects or some causative agents of cancer. We can point to them, but when a cancerous part of your body starts growing, there's nothing you can do but to keep your fingers crossed and hope against all odds. If we don't speak about corruption today, the future of our dear country is in shambles. Unfortunately, each time you speak about corruption, some perceive it as a political issue. Yes, it may be political, but let's move beyond politics and look at what corruption has done and is still doing to us and our dear country. If we do not speak about it now, the question is when? When should we talk about corruption? Without wasting much time, with a round of applause, let's welcome the Chief Crusader himself in the person of Mr. Emmanuel Wilson to give us his opening remarks, and let's kick the ball rolling. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, citizens of Eastern Region and specifically Koforidua. That's right. I like that. Thank you so much. So even though I'm American, so you should welcome us, but we'll flip the protocol. And I want to welcome each and every one of you to this program. My name is Emmanuel Wilson, Jr. I'm the Chief Crusader Against Corruption, as my uncle would say, here in Ghana. And so Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana is a civil society organization that started in the year 2019. And as the name goes, we've been fighting corruption, public sector corruption. And the reason why we are doing public sector corruption is simply because it is in the public sector that your taxes, my taxes, are either used well or misused. And so it is important for us to protect our taxes. And so if you are in your home and you engage in your private corruption, we are not so much interested in it, even though we are interested in it, but we are not so much interested. But anything that has to do with your taxes, my taxes, all of us are supposed to be interested in it, isn't it? So we started this civil society organization right from 2019, as I indicated, when we brought about the issue of PDS. You remember PDS? How do you call it? Electricity wahala. We brought it up, and right from there, we decided to form an organization where people will be interested in joining forces for us to fight corruption. The reason why we also decided to come together and form an organization is just because of what my uncle Domlevo has always been saying. If you want to fight corruption, corruption will fight you. And I remember last month in Greater Accra, when we had our regional forum, specifically at the Nat Hall, just around this time, before we could start, we started around 2 o'clock, just around this time. Just about 30 minutes to 2 o'clock or so, when I was on my way back to the venue, someone rushed into my car or drove into my car. And I remember when I came back and I told Mr. Domlevo, he laughed and said that, I told you, corruption will fight you, not physically, but also spiritually, emotionally, and all that you can think of. But one reason why we find it difficult to fight corruption in Ghana is simply because over the past years, we've been fighting corruption as individuals and not as collective, as a group. And so it is very easy for those who are engaged in corruption to attack Emmanuel Wilson because I'm just an individual. It's very easy for those, because fighting corruption is a cartel. People benefit from it. So it is very easy for those who are benefiting from it to attack Dr. Chris or Mr. Domlevo or Martin Amidu or anyone you can think of. But when we come together, you say prior who say uyi bako anebu. Okaboma is difficult. Say bebu. And that is one reason why Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana decided to come into existence, so that we serve as a platform where all anti-corruption crusaders will come together, where we find ourselves as a family. So now we know that when you attack Emmanuel Wilson, it's not only Emmanuel Wilson, you've also attacked Mr. Domlevo, you've also attacked Dr. Chris. When you attack Dr. Chris, you know that he's not the only one you have attacked. You've attacked Emmanuel Wilson, you've attacked all of us. I hope you understand. That is the reason. This morning, as always, we've been receiving a number of threats. And unfortunately, to the extent that one of the main speakers had received so much threat that he wanted even to leave the program before the program could start now. You know, but I believe that one of the good things is that when you have good men coming together, we will always defeat evil. And that is why I am so humbled and happy that all of us have come together for us to collectively see how we can fight corruption in this country. There are speakers as we have them: Mr. Domlevo, Dr. Spielgabra, Susan Inti, Atta Kennedy, and then Dr. Chris. Now, Dr. Spielgabra was actually on his way, but unfortunately, something happened. I mean, so health-wise, you know, not him personally, but someone closer to him. So, but he has decided to join online. So at the right time, he will speak online. Dr. Atta Kennedy, as we all know, he's currently not in the country. He's in the USA. And he has also decided to join online because he's so much interested in what we are doing here. And so he will be joining online at the right time when the network is going very well for all of us. I must also say again that I am so humbled, very, very humbled. We really did not anticipate this number of individuals. It shows that Eastern region, we really want to fight corruption. And not only that, and not only that, if I also look through and I see the personalities that I am sure at the right time will acknowledge each and every one that needs to be acknowledged. But I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Together, let's see how we can fight corruption, because that is what is killing us as a country. That is what is killing us as a country. Statistically, we are told that $3 billion goes to waste through corruption annually in Ghana. If you have a calculator, you can do the computation. Currently, the dollar rate is about 17 or 16 point something. Let's say 17. Multiply it by 3 billion, and you see how much money we are talking every year. That's what happens. Can you imagine this amount of money in our communities, what it can do for us? Can you imagine what it can do for us? There are so many things that is going on. And that is the reason why it is important when we get opportunity to conscientize ourselves and see what we can do. Those of you who have, I mean, I believe everyone have this, but those who have this, you turn back of it and then you will see some of the corrupt practices that have taken place in this country. And they are so, the list is endless. The list is endless. You remember the PDS fraudulent deal, which I mentioned earlier. You remember the $10 million wasted on Cocoa Road audit, $4.5 million AFCON profligate expenditure, Ministry of Finance pays $1 million to Kroll and Associates, and my uncle will talk more about it because he was the one who brought it to our attention. I mean, you go through it and you see all these things, and you realize that it is super, super, super disheartening. Very, very, very disheartening. I remember one of it which I will never forget, and I think it is here somewhere where, yes. So, Special Development Ministry, you know, when the current government was formed, he created a ministry called the Special Development Ministry. As we speak, that ministry doesn't exist again. All right? So I think it lasted for about four years, his first term. Now, in one of the budgets, I think 2021 or so budget, it was captured in it that Special Development Ministry, they were going to develop a website. Do we have any website developer here? No one. Okay. They were going to develop a website. And do you know the amount of money they used in developing that website? Have you seen it there? How much is it? How much is it? Is it 8 million or 800,000 Ghana cedis for a website which did not last beyond 4 years? 800,000 Ghana cedis for a website. As we speak right now, when you go to the internet and you type in, you won't see it. It didn't last beyond 4 years. That is your tax. That's my tax. I don't think if any of us have a business and we want to develop it, and our accountant brings a budget and says that, boss, approve 800 million or 800,000 Ghana cedis for a website. I don't think any of us will do that. But because it is not money coming from people's pockets, it is you and I, our taxes. So people will decide to use it anyhow they want to use it. And that is so sad. So I'm giving all this background for us to appreciate what we are doing here today. I indicated earlier that as part of our program for the last quarter of this year, we've decided to do a tour, regional tour. So last month, we had the first one in Greater Accra. Today, we are having one here. And if I compare Greater Accra and Eastern, I not to sound biased, but I think Eastern is the best. I think Eastern is the best. Trust me. Then, from here, we'll be going to Ashanti region. And it's okay to mention our plan so that those monitoring can continue giving threats. We are going to Ashanti region. From Ashanti region, we'll go to Tamale, Northern region. And then from Northern region, we'll come to the Western and probably the Central. And then we'll see. So it's a train that is moving. It's a train that is moving. It's a train that is moving. If you again look at the program, we have our speakers. After the speakers, we are going to have a panel discussion where all of us will have the opportunity to ask questions. Is that okay? You have the opportunity to ask questions. But before we bring in the speakers, I want to know if the videos are ready. So I would just want us to enjoy some videos. And then when we are done, I bring in the speakers and we continue the conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, it's a very terrible state of affairs. When we say Galamsey, people think it's over, nobody talks about them again. But we're not even looking at the act itself, we're looking at the repercussion, the effects of Galamsey on our water bodies. And so traveling from Apiete in the western region towards Accra, we decided to sample every water body on the way, just to show the effect of it, because we have seen firsthand what is ongoing. And so right next to me is a bottle containing water fetched from here, and this is the Bonsa River. Of course, children around the river don't have a choice. It's a Sunday morning, and if there's nothing to do, a swim in the river wouldn't be bad. And so yes, they are having a dip in the water, but what these kids don't know is this water isn't just a dirty water. It is a contaminated water from chemicals washed into the water from the activity of galamsey. This really is not the best. And if you can see in the distance, I see a young man very well having a shower, not necessarily bathing inside the water, but with a cup scooping the water and pouring over himself. This is a young man having a shower, enjoying the water as anybody else will do. And that in itself isn't one that can be overlooked because it is really the worry is the contamination in the water that is causing the problem, and that is what nationally there must be a concise effort to deal with, or else this can become something else for us. We're still traveling from Apiate towards Accra, and we will be sampling all the water bodies on the way to tell the story of how galamsey really is changing the state of our water bodies. This water body 2 years ago when I was here wouldn't be this muddy, but today nothing to write home about really. It has gone from bad in that state 2 years ago to worse as it is today, and still there are those who would say and that is really the problem. Let's all work together to stop it, nip it in the bud once and for all. Yes, it's taken 2 years, but we can still do something about it. And so our journey from Apiate near Bogoso, as I mentioned earlier, took us through parts of Afamasa Kotom, Onyipehiam, Boa, Akukubidi Bro. We came to Bonsa, and right after Bonsa, we journeyed west towards south again. So we came to a town called Ewusejo, where the river Butre travels down south into the sea. Interesting, but unfortunate it will be that the water in Ewusejo is no different from what we encountered around Bonsa. I am going to get into the water and fetch a bit to show the difference between that and what we fetched from the Bonsa water body. And here I go deep down into the water and what it is. You may not agree that galamsey has a certain effect, because on your pocket galamsey has been really very kind to you, but spare thought for the many who live along the banks of these water bodies, who depend on them for a livelihood. Again, I want to show you a certain sharp contrast between what is rainwater collected close to the Ewusejo water as it flows down south, and if this is rainwater collected which should make its way but for the rocks next to them, it would have made its way into the main water and flowed down south with it. And this to my left, as you can see, is what galamsey has done to it. Then one wonders what would have happened if this rainwater had gone through the mainstream and flown down south without the effect of galamsey on the water. You may not be worried about it, but I am. You may not care, but I do. And Ghana does. And so even more is the urgent call to put a stop to this. This cannot be water. Remember, a child born 5 years ago may never have the opportunity to see the water as clean as I showed earlier, as collected to the side of the rock by rainfall. What that means is we have denied this child a good opportunity to depend on this water as their grandparents did years ago. Maybe their parents did, but they would never have the opportunity, thanks to galamsey. Uncle Bosho Bozin Chem Kaka.
I am Fredina.
It wouldn't Mawazophobia. Andrews Okran. Andrews, you will say Josie here, a Hanifi. Popoto, you see, if a man the name Mortina, Ottawadan.
I make a man the name Mortina, I am a fair.
Bantin is your face, my name, your fetching data.
No, that person, no actions now, one can say a book, I'm Bernardo.
What do you see with that?
Oh, make one with that. Bernardo, well, when you're a namina, Sassona. And I'm different. Oh, well, bend them in the movie here then. Then they charge it all the same. At this time, you move to the papa.
Nti say egwale mi daza na anu obotumu abade ani musuda
Manu mukuda.
Ti say make de mbafra ba wo won nde wo nya de me kwan no na wo hu nsu ma na yi ma ote no oda kogin a enyim ya adwen
No ya adwen pa. No ya adwen.
Ye fi bogoso na ye bepui ha ye mi kire akra. Na yehwe insunsu ahura yehye okwem ina ma oti azuko ina ibodu biara wo budin oni yi galamse ewuse edwo ha wo ye galamse wa ha
Esojo ha wo ye galamse ni land
mu yi land
yo ye galamse
nti ibi wa ye ni galamse na no nsunsuado wa abotio wa hede no otewoden wa dwen madami pokro no otedan.
The mean, open the mamma mood there, paying Funanka na what the milk on it. One washing made money then, of course, because Mission Fatuna, Mamericano, I shall permit sooner. Or to Sabia, ever seen him soon ID. And that 3 days, Mokot town. Mokot the Moko and soon quajin. Oh, yeah, Promdo. I promise. Okay, it's no other one. Okay, you and then quajin. Now why do you more break for the what and so what the then? Why you more break or that side? So your button on what to break a man or not sure one a man paying Funaka so then. Walk home, Medasi. On your easy, Medasi.
Meet Baby X, preserved in formalin at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology for observation. He or she is not your normal baby. Baby X is deformed. It has no genitals. It has 6 fingers and 6 toes and a malformed head. This baby was discovered by Professor Osei Sampini, a pathologist, scientist, and a senior lecturer with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
The first case I had was in the Western North, which is Bibiani to be precise. My mother was sent to the labor ward. She couldn't make it, so she died. And you see, whilst the person dies, usually the doctors will not go ahead to do cesarean section. The baby and the mother are sent to the morgue, and then another person comes in to remove the baby.
This was after the autopsy to separate the baby from the mother, who died before delivery.
The baby or the fetus that was in the mother's womb was deformed. Deformed in the sense that the baby had multiple limbs, including, I'm talking about upper and lower limbs. The eye was not well formed, fused together. He had no sexes, that is, there was no identifiable sex. And generally, I mean, in medicine we call it dysmorphic, where you could not see anything that makes the baby, I mean, if he had been even born, would have lived comfortably in life.
Professor Sampene traces the cause of the deformities to heavy concentrations of lead, mercury, and cyanide found in the placenta.
Mercury, cyanide, lead, and arsenic. Yes, in that order. They were all there. Of course, in some appreciable concentration that could be damaging to the normal function or the normal development of the DNA, the baby, and so on and so forth. Once it is in the placenta, naturally to be in the baby, because the placenta is the only means by which the baby gets his feed. Even the oxygen the baby gets is from the placenta. Everything that the baby gets was in the uterus is from the placenta.
Baby X is perhaps the strongest proof ever of how heavy metal contamination can alter the developmental stages of a fetus, leading to extreme deformation in babies.
I was surprised because medicine evolves. People have done studies in some of these things. So if you see them in the literatures, the books that you read, the biology books, the pathology books, anatomy books, the histology books and all those things, sometimes you see them, you feel these are things that are just because that they are just like toys or something that do not exist, people's imaginations. But when I saw it, then I realized that yes, it's true.
Baby X's preserved body is a grim presentation of an unseen danger lurking in the midst of communities affected by irresponsible mining and the selfish pollution of the Ghanaian environment for gold. Professor Sampene has so far seen and tested 4 of such babies with extreme deformities. He has similarly found disturbing levels of lead and mercury in all of them.
I had a similar call to go and get another one done. That was in Central Region, Dunkwa Hospital. And the same thing was found. Then comes other cases in the Ashanti region, where another one was also found to be in a similar manner. And then the Western region again, where another one was also found. Then I realized that there should supposed to be some correlation here. And that correlation is what? The spillage of what? Any pollutant, any form of pollutant into the system, to the ecosystem, where we need to actually address. Then I decided, look, let me just now get all the placentas labeled, parts of the babies, these fetuses, parts, organs, like the kidney, the liver, these vital organs. Let me just take bits and pieces of them and then do some work, laboratory work around it, and see what could be the reason.
He concludes that this is a grim reality of a possible widespread catastrophe which needs further public health research on a large scale.
The conclusion is that heavy metals are in the system. When we read other literatures in Ghana, we have realized that, oh well, people have done some work in water bodies, soil, and probably the atmosphere. But let me just say that not only that, now it is gone beyond that. And I told you, this work is not something that I can boldly say that it affects everybody. But those ones that I've done, only 4 fetuses that I've done, I believe, and I believe, I have seen that the heavy metals are there, in them, were found in them. And so that is why, maybe in addition to other factors, other environmental factors or genetic factors or something, the stimulant or the stimulant could be just the heavy metal.
One way baby X's mother may have been exposed to mercury is through inhalation of vaporized mercury.
Omafo Braneswe, Omanu Sebiyeyo, Omanu Seriyeyo, Eyeseta Ose, Omafo Braneswe.
Right. Did we enjoy it? Is it triggering something in us? Especially the very last video. So you see, what corruption does is that it only does not affect you and I, but it even affects our unborn children. Is that the kind of life we want to live for our unborn children? The next generation. People who are not even yet born. When I first saw the very last video, I just said to myself, is it really worth it? Like, I gave up. Honestly, I gave up. But that is it. That is the reality. That is what is happening. So when you have all this, I think you agree with me that even if the perpetrators decide that they will threaten us and they will come after our lives and all that, for the sake of our next generation, I don't think it is too much for us to even sacrifice ourselves for the next generation. Is it too much to do that? Those who gave us independence, a lot of them died, didn't they? Anyway, so to announce that Dr. Inti is on. Is Dr. Inti on? Dr. Inti is on, not yet. So in the next few minutes, we'll have Dr. Inti as the first speaker. And then when Dr. Inti is done, I'll come and announce the next speaker and we'll take it from there. But one reason why I even show this video is the fact that just recently there was a video, I don't know whether you've seen it, where a certain member of parliament was telling the whole world and telling some individuals that if they decide to do something about Galamsey, they are going to lose a lot of parliamentary seats. I don't know whether you've seen that video. And so, to quote him, Galamsey, no, yenjai enne, yenjai ochina. You know what that means? They will prefer winning an election to protecting your life and protecting my life. Just winning an election is more valuable to them than our human lives. Anyway, so we have Dr. Susan Inti. I'm sure, Doc, are you ready? Doc, if you can unmute the sound. Doc, can you unmute the sound if you can hear us so that we usher you in? So whilst we do that, we wait for that. As I indicated, all right, so she's not yet in. As I indicated, it is sad, and that is where the issue has to. If we are not getting Doc, is Dr. Spiel online? Not yet. All right. Is Atta Kennedy online? Doc is back. Doc, can you hear us? So Dr. Susan Inti, can you please unmute if you can hear us? So Dr. Susan Inti is the chairperson for Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana.
I'm in.
Right, Doc. So,
hallelujah.
Right. She's the chairperson for Crusaders Against Corruption Ghana.
Hallelujah.
She's a bishop also. Doc, so we welcome you to Koforidua Eastern Premier, and we have an overflowing house, and because we want to go straightly according to time so that we can finish, Doc, you have about 15 minutes to do a presentation, if you may, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Am I on screen?
Yes, you are.
I want to say good afternoon to everybody. It's a good thing that you've come out today. God bless you. There are quite a number of issues that are part of the agenda today, but on behalf of the board of the Crusaders Against Corruption, I want to welcome you. Let me just get some notes that I made. I've just come back from a meeting with the running mate of the NPP government, the chairman, and a whole group of members of the NPP party as a member of the eminent persons group that was constituted by the Christian Council of Ghana. We have the mandate to go to the various arms of government as part of the efforts to contribute to the promotion of peace during, before, and after the 2024 and the presidential and the parliamentary elections. As the elections are coming up, we know that there are a lot of topics that are at the top of the agenda. The first one being Galamsey, which I heard the Chief Crusader talking about briefly. These are all very important items on the agenda in our fight against corruption, and there are many other areas that we are tackling or we are bringing to the fore to expose and to educate Ghanaians about the realities and the best practices that would enable our democracy to move forward. So today we had a discussion with the National Patriotic Party leaders about this issue of Galamsey, and questioned them, I want to say this, questioned them about the licenses that had been granted to mining companies in September and October, about 45 licenses granted in September and 11 in October that we are aware of. And their explanation is that Galamsey is illegalities that occur in the mining industry, mainly by people who probably haven't or have licenses but do not comply with the guidelines and the regulations, and also those who do not have mining licenses and they just mine illegally without caution and without due care and responsibility for the environment. One of the key things was the reason why licenses are being granted is so that they can bring them under control. The issue that we brought up as the eminent persons group and as the chairperson of the Crusaders Against Corruption is, how do we ensure food security and water bodies, conserve our water bodies for the citizens of Ghana? And that was one of the main questions that we asked. They said that they have, going forward, a 6-point plan, and there was talk of a declaration of mining, which all Ghanaians should get behind to promote so that we can monitor what is going on in the mining industry. One submission that I made, because we can talk about the problem, but we need to all agree on the kinds of solutions to the problem of Galamsey. When mining companies pollute water and harm the livelihood of farmers, it is crucial that we impose consequences and enact laws to protect the environment and the communities that we live in. And what I want to give to you as the citizens, so that we can all speak with one voice against this practice of, corruption, which damages our water bodies, etc., is that even though gold prices have risen to over $2,000 for a certain amount, it used to be very low, but because it has risen so much, everybody is more interested in making the money than conserving our environment and protecting our water bodies. So what we need to do is we need to push whichever government comes into power between now and election. We need to push for fines and penalties, substantial financial penalties for companies found guilty, individuals and companies found guilty of polluting water sources or damaging agricultural land, because a lot of them damage the lands of the farmers, etc. We also need to make sure that they do mandatory cleanups and remediation. We need to require companies to restore ecosystems and recover contaminated areas funded by the offending companies. They need to pay. We need to stand together. We need to push for a revocation of licensing, allow for the suspension or the revocation of the mining licenses for repeat offenders or those who do not comply with the environmental regulations. We also need to make sure that the political parties or whoever comes into government mandate compensation for affected farmers and communities for the loss of income and damage to land or resources. We can't just sit back. Yes, we want to talk about the issues, but we need solutions. We need to problem solve. There needs to be increased oversight and monitoring, creating stricter enforcement of existing regulations, including regular inspections and monitoring of mining operations. And when there are issues, it is very easy for parliamentarians to bring in laws, and we need to push for stricter environmental regulations, establishing laws that require comprehensive environmental impact assessments before any mining operations begin, to ensure that they consider the potential effects on the water and the farmlands, because one of the key issues is food security. We need to ensure food security. Otherwise, like water, we will be importing. And we need to ensure food security in our country. We need to ensure that there are sufficient water protection laws. Laws specifically protecting water sources from industrial pollution. Clear guidelines on acceptable limits for contaminants. We need to pass laws that ensure local communities have a say in mining operations, including provisions for public hearings and community consent. People cannot just get up and give licensing to people in areas that are run by chiefs and government and stools, etc. So we need to ensure that there's local community input in mining operations, because some of the chiefs are just taken by surprise. They don't know what's happening in their backyards. We need to also have a law that says that the polluter must pay. The polluter must pay. We need to enact laws that require polluters to bear the cost of managing and mitigating their environmental impacts. This happens outside of this country in the Western Hemisphere, and we need to hold people accountable, and we need to lobby for that. We need to also have laws that support sustainable agriculture, develop programs and incentives that support farmers in transitioning to sustainable practices, usually in the areas that are affected by mining. We need to think about employment, and a lot of the issues that some of the politicians and the parties are talking about is about employment of our youth. We need to think about employment of our youth and also make it interesting and conducive for our youth to get into agriculture. So we need to have support for agricultural initiatives and programs. We need that. And we all need to speak the same language about problem solving. We need transparency and reporting. Mandate mining companies to publicly disclose and how they are addressing such issues. So there needs to be transparency and there needs to be reporting. We also need to introduce legislation that holds mining companies accountable, legally accountable for environmental and social impacts of their operations, extending beyond national borders if necessary. And then we also need community development programs requiring the mining companies to invest in local communities. You know, when we look at Obuasi mines and all the other mining areas, you will find that the mining companies go into towns, villages, and they just do whatever they want. Schools are left dilapidated. Schools are left derelict. There needs to be community development programs that require mining companies to invest in the local communities, including education, healthcare, infrastructure, you know, to mitigate the negative impacts of their activities. Unless we hold the mining companies and the governments responsible, we will always have this same problem. You know, so I'm just talking about the consequences and enacting laws to hold government accountable, and that the government too can hold the mining companies accountable and protect the environment and the livelihoods of the affected communities that we are talking about. This should not happen. This should not be happening. So yes, we want to talk about the issues that we are facing, but we need to come up with solutions, and we cannot keep quiet. We need to express our opinions. We need to voice and vocalize the solutions. We have to problem solve. We have to be critical thinkers when it comes to any of these issues and then corrupt practices that are going on. And one thing that I need to say, that if things are not going the way we require them to go as citizens of Ghana, we have the mandate and we have a vote. And for us to vote for those people who will do the right thing. Right now, in terms of galamsey and mining, we need a declaration of mining. We need a declaration. Everyone who mines will follow this declaration, and that there will be consequences if they don't do so. So that is what I have to say on galamsey, and thank you so much. Chief Crusader, any questions?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Can we give Madam a round of applause for what she said? So, Madam Chair, you may have to join us through the program. Question and answer time will come very soon, so that you'll be invited in. So please stay tuned. Just join us and then enjoy the program as we have it. There are a number of dignitaries that have come in, and as I indicated, I'll be acknowledging them at the right time. Impenyinfu pia ba hanumwa emripe mu no meyi obia edi achire na because ye pese time no ye disu ye nti no we'll move straight to the next speaker. Without much ado, we want to invite Dr. Chris Kuda Solomon to talk to us on corruption in the extractive industry. Please, let's welcome Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. My name is Chris Koda, Dr. Chris Koda, CEO of Solomon Investment, and I got interested in the gold sector should I say, about 30 to 40 years ago, when the government of Ghana came to the World Economic Forum, where I was a discussant on the structural adjustment program that we always do with the World Bank and the rest. And I told them bluntly that as long as we don't take one strategic product which can have a good value addition, this depreciation of the dollar, the CD, the currencies and everything will continue forever. That is how the genesis of my being involved. It was at the end of the PNDC going to the NDC, then to the other. So I think I have a wide knowledge of the sector, and I permit myself now also to consider as one of the authorities. I don't know where to start from, but I will just want a small joke first. We Africans, in fact, in Ghana, can I imagine something? If you take a truck full of money, which armed robbers have picked from a bank, and you send the people, the police and the rest, the truck, all the thieves have to do is to throw one crate on the ground, and you see everybody fighting with it, the police, the crowd, and the rest, and the van will run away. So, gold is more than money. Gold is the primary product of money. All other minerals can be money, but gold is gold. In fact, even the money you hold is a credit based on gold. So, the moment you take it out of the ground, you are holding money in your hand. The history of the world is based on exploitation of land. And we in Africa have the richest land. In fact, we are the richest people in the world, only we are being impoverished. A system of cultural values have led us into being passive, generous, and welcoming, which gradually took all our skills and technologies away. And those who were aggressive that we sacked away came back to conquer us and made us feel that we cannot develop those minerals and not even own them through multinationals and through other ways to conquer us. Now, they even deprive us of knowledge of how to refine those gold, those properties, minerals, and technologies that transfer to them are now their monopolies well advanced, so much that for perpetuity, you need to be kept. You need to be kept poor. That facilitates through the maneuver of governments to be able to exploit us to the extinction of our race. I may be sounding like I'm exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating at all in any way. Now, therefore, by human nature, those few 10% that I was mentioning who will run after the gold, it crosses across every social strata, will be the ones that they will wisely take to put in positions and become the traitors of their own people by first selling them into slavery, then later using them as slaves on their own land that we see today. Because it is very pathetic to see the kind of pictures we see of ourselves struggling to get the daily bread. The worst part which will happen is why we don't feel much yet, but if you go into the Sahelian area, they turn the whole corruption and the greed and the system works so much that they will even have to use armed robbers to rob you. They will use religious fanatics to rob you. And when I was saying to government, 2016 and the rest that, we are very close in less than 10 years to national security threats. Some people didn't like what I was saying. But that's how drug gangs develop. That's how gold, which is the hottest, develop. And they're fighting among themselves, they destabilize people, including government. That is how serious it is. So we must look at corruption in a wide sense of the word, not only exchanging money, but corrupting the integrity of people through different actions or coercions. Because governments are sometimes coerced by the powers that be to be able to do things their way so that they can continue exploiting us. And they won't help you get money to win an election. So that is how dangerous it is. It is not only for this fetus deformation, they have already worked on your mental power already. Now they are physically distant, but it's extinction which comes for them. Take the history of the world. I'm not blaming Americans. I'm not blaming Chinese. I'm not blaming Japanese. I'm not blaming the Roman Empire. But by conquest, they go to the extent of exterminating people. As long as you allow yourself not to fight back and get your discipline, you are finished. So I will quickly move to a next stage where I would like to attempt going sectorial, going towards the sector of the mining to talk about how should we therefore define galamsey. We know that the meaning is gather and sell. Technically, it involves therefore two parts. To gather, that's mining. Sell, that's marketing. But as simple as it puts, when you start creating proper mining procedures, whether you even classify them that some of us have been able to do towards artisanal, different from small scale, different from medium scale, different from large scale, you will still need expertise to do all of them and expertise to sell them at the world market price to make a living. So I will say that in the whole process, from mining to the London bullion market, or using it to create a refinery, to create jewelries, you will need, excuse me, I have been also threatened today. So I can publicly say that I'm not revealing anything directly. I won't talk about any scandal directly. We have all seen what it causes. I will only define, therefore, galamsey as anyone who is not doing best practice. The best practice starts from the mines to the London bullion market or creating jewelries. For the meantime, we are exporting to buy and the rest and losing $6 billion and the rest. But I'll still not mention names. Then, since we are saying best practice, it means mining is done in a certain way to be profitable so as not to damage the environment, so not to kill too many people. Technology is always there to use. But sometimes accidents happen. You can have a car accident, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't use car. But you must have the best practice. Because the problems are usually in the details. The devil always lies in the details. That is why we do not do. Then we wait for people to do for us, and they take advantage and take everything from us. This is not the best forum to go technical, but it's to give a general overview of how what we call corruption eats into ourselves, our systems, and everything. And at the end of the day, we cannot do anything. And when we are trying to solve the problems, sometimes we are using methods or systems which are generations behind. I know other speakers will speak, but I will accelerate this side to say that no matter in Africa today, in Ghana today, in fact, my mother was born in Kofridwa. My house in Kita is called Kofridwa Villa or Achim House. Nima, I'm from Bogatanga House. And I can continue like that. I'm a Ghanaian without complex. We must survive. Ghana is the center of the world. But we cannot use old methods to solve these problems. Administrative knowledge, expertise is required, yes. We know how to raise any money in this world. In fact, the money is down there. They use certain methods. We all learn them. From them, we can use it. We don't even need them to go. So when somebody tells me Ghana without aid, I believe him. When you tell me Ajapa, I believe you. When you tell me one district, one factory, I believe you. When you tell me the land must do reclamation, rehabilitation. They are not the same. I know what you mean. That relates to agriculture. So it's a comprehensive thing, which if you don't take well, will mess up. Therefore, what is the way forward? While some of our people have not been to plenty school, as I was classifying mining, which I think by now, from the report I sent to World Bank as a consultant, 2002, is now pick up. They are doing 3, but in actual fact, it's 4 classification. Artisanal, usually you can make goldsmith designs, crown things for chiefs, our respectable chiefs. Then you have the proper, what we are calling small scale. We are messing up things. We want to continue like that, we will not even know how to solve the problem. So you want to say, don't use excavator for this, for this. Don't do in the water bodies and the rest. They all have technologies to be handling them. But not everybody has to go to school to be a small scale miner and the rest, and then all the rules and regulations, and be able to apply them. The complexity of it, before you move to sales, which I will not talk about, and marketing to get what you call world bullion market purity for the gold. The procedure to go about it, or produce jewelries. I would invent even jewelries using identical symbols, rather than to go and buy Christian Dior, Gucci, and the rest. All those things, human beings can't do it easily. Much more so, we are not organized. When we see the little, we want to run away with it. So the only thing is, from agriculture, which can be derived from these activities, to mining, to industry,